Marfoogle TV going live in 3. All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle TV. Risk of underwater sea cables attacks are up, and they say that Russia and China are likely to rise the amount that they are actually taking these things out. A spat of incidents in the Baltic Sea and around Taiwan are a harbinger of further disruptive activity, cybersecurity firm says. Now, whenever we hear this, we hear the messaging, the narrative that, of course, that these things are going to be cut. We have seen many, many times where a lot of countries around the world are either losing their power or their internet. And that's the thing. We are waiting for an event where we see almost globally something happen on that kind of level. And that is what has been predicted. Of course, Klaus Schwab coming out and saying, well, it's most likely there's a cyber event that will make 2019 look like chicken feed. That kind of thing is a very, very scary harbinger of what is to come. Now, everybody has their different opinions on why this would happen or what the goal is, but it's something that it is increasingly the most likely scenario because we are now interconnected with the internet, with, of course, everything. So, again, this is an analysis by the, it says, let me see here, the ATV, and it said the risk of Russia and China-backed attacks on undersea cables carrying international internet traffic is likely to rise amid the spat of incidents in the Baltic Sea. Submarine cables account for 99% of the world's intercontinental data traffic and has been affected by incidents with suspected state support over the last 18 months. Analysis by Recorded Future, a U.S. cybersecurity future company, singled out 9 incidents in the Baltic Sea and off the coast of Taiwan in 2024 and in 2025. Remember, almost all of these, they said, was an accident that, oh, whoops, we dragged, our anchor alongside of it, but it was a complete accident. Well, something like this, if it happens on a big scale, if it disconnects us from Europe, our hard line, it would go alongside other campaigns. It would happen right alongside the big one. We're talking about Russia moving into NATO if that happens. It would happen with China moving into Taiwan. It would happen with Israel and Iran. It would happen with North Korea and South Korea. All of this would happen simultaneously. That's the only way that the U.S. would be defeated. At least that's what they think. So again, we'll talk about this and much, much more on today's show. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right, what is going on, guys? Adam A.K. Marf, let's get right back into it. First of all, I want to say thank you to Jan T. Thank you for using your super to gift out 10 badges to other Foogle family members. Jan T., thank you so much. And then right off the bat, Sweatin'em Ministries. Thank you. Says, hope all is well. Adam, Dex, and Mods, thank you for being the only news I watch. P.S. Did you leave I leave you a super chat in the previous show with interesting news. God bless. I will have to make sure that I didn't already see that. So thank you, Sweatna. I appreciate that, and thank you. Sometimes I miss them when they're late in the show. All right, and then let's bring in my co-internet brother, Dex James. What is going on, and how are you doing today?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So this is kind of a wild one because they say that something is enclosing in on Area 51. What is that?
Well, yeah, there's been this fire that's just continuing to grow, and it's all around Area 51. Now, mind you, the actual Area 51 is in a desert, so I don't think the base itself is necessarily at much risk outside of smoke, but all the wooded lands nearby and all around the area and the mountains there, a lot of it has been engulfed in flames. It's now gotten up to, I think they said something like 35,000 acres. It swelled from 9,000 to 35,000 acres. It's burning up the lands all around it. Now, of course, there's a lot of conspiracies running around too. Now, people are wondering, did something happen out in that area? One of the locations is where we were used to test nukes, or with a nuclear testing range. That area is under fire. And there's a lot of concern, a lot of people questioning, were they testing something? Was there aliens? Was there something else? Of course, the insert your favorite theory here that nobody really knows at the moment, and anything that happens around Area 51 is always cause for questioning, especially for unexplained activity, even though this is pretty normal. It's a forest fire, but it's certainly worth asking that question, right?
But let's see here. Ghosts in Cars says Bob Lazar getting his revenge. And then oh my god. Let's see here. Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum accounted for. No, and it could be Vault 76 opened up and they're popping out and they're just pissed off and they're like, "Hey, there was no nuclear holocaust. We've been in here for 50 years." But who knows? And then Rosemary Griffin, nice to see you. That's the thing. There are so many tests. What if something went wrong? What if they tested something nearby and there was a mistake or something happened? The thing is, like you said, there's not that much wooded areas around it. So I think that Area 51 in itself would be safe, and most of it we believe is underground. I mean, isn't that the current belief, that most of Area 51 is kind of an underground bunker type of thing? Or do we even know? Has that ever been confirmed? Anybody in the UFO arena can let us know. But yeah, that's something to keep track of, and we'll see if it gets any closer. And then U.S. to build fast boat base near South China Sea. So we've covered that. This by itself is one thing, but when you look at what is happening across the board with revamping islands, with what did we just cover with Russia? They were revamping something that very, very old that was not used forever. There's been a ton
nuke bases were expanding.
That's right. And then you have them cleaning up and clearing areas that they haven't used since World War II. In a lot of cases, this is what's been happening across the board. Now, of course, in a seeming bid to counter increasingly aggressive Chinese activities in the South China Sea, the U.S. plans to finance and construct a fast boat facility on the western coast of Palawan in the Philippines. The facility will be built to launch at least 5 fast boats, which will be constructed by U.S.-based company Reconcraft. The manufacturer specializes in producing vessels used by law enforcement and the military for rapid interdiction. Now, I'm wondering, Dex, is this more for if they have the Chinese spraying Filipino boats and then these boats go out and respond and try to stand up for the Filipinos? Do you know what I mean? Or what do you think that this could be used for?
Well, it depends on the distance and the islands in which they're deploying them, and where they are and how far they can go. But yeah, rapid response is going to be critical, whether it's something like that or even something in Taiwan for that matter, just depending on the distance. I don't know if they can cover that much distance. It looks pretty long to me.
Because here's Palawan. This is the Spratly Island, and then these are the islands that China has built and said, because of these, we own all of this ocean. So these they are making the claim to. When you zoom into these Spratly Islands, by the way, if you didn't know this, and I'm sure most all of you do, some of these are actual runways. Some of these are bases. I mean, these are forward operating bases. It's very, very crazy. I think is this one? No, there's a few of them in here, and it's quite crazy to see what they have built out in the middle of the ocean, essentially building up from atolls. So yeah, this whole area, I wonder if this would be to respond to some of the stuff that goes on here with the Filipinos trying to claim their land back, and respond to those and kind of overwhelm a single Coast Guard boat by the Chinese.
It
That
certainly would seem that's the first priority because it is the closest, right? And these are rapid response boats. So again, I don't think they have long range, that long a range to maybe go all the way up to Taiwan. But yeah, that definitely seems like the output for that organization. And we've seen so much investment in supporting the Philippines against China. And every time we do, China does not like it. So, not that we do it to piss them off, so to speak. We're doing it because there's a real threat. And that real threat is this escalation where China is going to probably, as they take Taiwan, escalate in the Philippines and escalate in North Korea, and bifurcate the U.S., where we have to deal with the Philippines, South Korea, and Taiwan and Japan all at the same time.
Yep, and with everything that's going on in this area, it's something to watch very, very closely. And then there was something about the Basilan Islands too that just recently happened too. And then China is moving. If you haven't seen, they're further covering how far these aircraft carriers, the Chinese aircraft carriers, are going. We of course covered it right as they passed the first defense line, but they are now essentially in parts of the ocean that have been traditionally ran by the U.S. and never ever has China, gone in these parts of the ocean, especially with their aircraft carriers. That's exactly what they're doing right now. All right, now before we move on, make sure to go check out EMP Shield. Again, you guys know, most of you already know what this does, but it is a very, very important device. In fact, they make many devices, including their new Starlink protection and modem protection, but there is a device for pretty much everything you want to protect, including your home, which turns your home into a giant surge protector. That means everything plugged in, you can just plug it right into the wall or into a cheaper, power bar. Instead of getting those expensive surge protectors, your entire house turns into the surge protector against lightning, against EMP, against CME. This is not just the normal surge protector you'd buy. The one for the car will keep your car running after multiple EMP strikes from an adversary, which no surge protector, no regular surge protector could ever do. This thing can ground the signal in less than 500 trillionths of a second before frying your device, and it's about 10 minutes to put into your car. Red to red on your battery, black to black on your battery, green to ground, and then you bolt it into the side of your chassis and you're done. MarfoogleNews.com/EMP. Code MARF will get you $50 off per device and will, of course, help us out and help you out. Get yourself prepared. All right. And then we have Chinese military unveils robot murder wolves. And I don't like, they call them wolves. They're the same robot dogs, only these ones are in packs, right? So these things are pretty scary. Dex, go over that.
Certainly. So the 76th Group Army drills focused on battlefield coordination with these infantry robot dogs. They're integrating them to deploy in an unmanned system in their modern combat. So they're autonomous technologies, and they support not only a strategic point clearing, but fire support and breaching defensive positions. According to the military statement, the exercises represent China's latest effort in advanced unmanned warfare capabilities amid growing global competition in the military robotics field. So the robotic wolves, branded Steel Warriors, were shown at a Chinese exhibition last year, but before they were being deployed. Now they've been deployed or gone out in the field. And the exercise in China fielded a rifle-armed robotic wolf for the assault operation. Following the Golden Dragon 2025 exercise, it featured UAV equipped with a GBZ-95 rifle, providing fire cover for the ground units. So you can see they're looking at robotic warfare. When you think about what's going on in Ukraine, like even Zelensky came out and said we could not have sustained anything against Russia if we didn't have drones. And we're talking like, DJI style drones. That's all they were pretty much using. The next that pretty much dictates the way warfare is going to happen. If it escalates anywhere else, it's going to continue to be drone based. What we're seeing here is with the robotics, not only an air cover, ground cover, fire in both from the air and the ground from these autonomous robots, is getting way beyond let's improvise a DJI style drone, a quadcopter drone, to now we're getting to some heavy duty equipment. And they're orchestrating them all together. And I think that's when you start to see how AI and the computing technology is giving them the ability to do that and make them work in a pack or a swarm or whatever you want to define it, whether it's in the air, on the ground, or even way up in the air with the traditional old school but big massive drones that go up way up in the sky. All of that coordinated together then with infantry on the ground. So it's going to be completely change the way we have thought about militarization and modern combat on the field.
And you're talking about these things are mobbing together with the military. They all have different versions too. You can see that there is one here in the front with it's straight up it's kind of funny how simple it is. It's an upside down weapon, right? You see the clip on the top. I'm assuming that a human being is partnered with this thing, and when it runs out of bullets that it fills it. There's ones with arms, there's ones with sensors. So one would be able to sense and see, anybody coming up. There would be one that would target it. All of them have very similar things, but you can see this one in the back is definitely different. There's ones for breaching. There's ones made for power, for busting through concrete walls. So you're talking about expanding what every single group of infantry will have. Now, we have these kind of things too. So just imagine how wild the next battles will be, especially if you're looking peer-to-peer. So yeah, this video is over on our website. Again, you can go find that over on marfooglenews.com.
Yeah, and the biped robots are, they're the next step. I'm envisioning we're going to see the bipeds. Like we see them, what is it? What's the Tesla robot called? I can't remember the name of it, but
Tesla bot.
Yeah, whatever. That and China
Optimus.
And others have their biped robots, right? That are walking around and running and doing all sorts of acrobatics. I don't think it's that much further till we see them in full military gear, trekking up through the hills next to these dogs.
And it's Optimus, my bad. Optimus is the Tesla bot, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's it.
So, yeah, when you have Optimus and Fido or Murder Wolf or whatever you want to call it, mobbing together, that's going to be freaky. And then Iran's leader threatens even bigger blow against the U.S. Trump says there's in no rush to talk. Dex, do you want to go over this one?
Yeah, so the Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, issued a statement and the latest threats against the U.S., and it's a dog on a leash. The regime, as he said, as nations urge nuclear negotiations but eye sanction options. The fact that our nation is ready to face the power of the United States and its dog on a leash, referring to Israel, is very praiseworthy. So Khamenei went on to claim last month's attacks that on the U.S. Airbase in Qatar was just the beginning of what Tehran could throw at Washington, and warned that even bigger blow could be inflicted on the U.S. and others. Now, we take that and we're sort of like, well, everything we were told was that attack on Qatar was nothing. Like we said, bring it, and they brought it, and we shot it all down, and I think maybe one got through, or one that they let get through. So if that was just the beginning, then like, okay, that's not much of a threat. I think at least that's what we've been told in the media. That's what we've been told by our politicians. That's what we've been told by our military, reporting on what happened. So I kind of question, is this just big words for him to try to save face in Iran, or is this really something we should be taking seriously?
Well, I think it's kind of interesting that they're saying that Israel is our dog on the leash when everybody, has the view of it's the reverse, right? It's that the U.S. is on the leash for
exactly.
Israel's holding the leash. And then Trump clarifies no long-range missiles to Ukraine, declares I'm on nobody's side. So this has just been a flip-flop left and right. Only a week after further contents of a July 4 phone call between Presidents Trump and Zelensky being revealed, but it comes amid accusations of fake news and taking statements out of context. It says, Vladimir, can you hit Moscow? Can you hit St. Petersburg too. That's reportedly what Trump posed in the Ukrainian leader in their July 4th call, which is crazy. On Independence Day, he's on this call talking about this stuff. It says, which came the day following the president had a disappointing call Russian leader Vladimir Putin. Zelensky responded, absolutely, we can if you give us the weapons. All of this is according to a report in Financial Times, which the White House is now pushing back against. They're saying that no, they didn't, right? Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt says the Financial Times framing of the call was misleading without proper context. The Financial Times is notorious for taking words wildly out of context to get clicks because their paper is dying, she has stated. Trump sought to clarify in remarks reporters on Tuesday that Zelensky shouldn't target Moscow, and proclaimed interesting and ironic remarks that he's on nobody's side, but that simply he wants the perishing to stop. The major announcement, which he had planned for Monday, did not include any new package of offensive long-range missiles that the public knows about, at least. President Trump is merely asking a question, not encouraging further people getting taken out. He's working tirelessly to stop the perishing and end this conflict. So you have back and forth kind of contradicting statements, and whatever the Financial Times took out of context, that was rolled with. So now you have, of course, maybe it wasn't supposed to come out. Maybe it's a cover-up now, or maybe they are actually going to change their strategy. So this is something that's going to get really, really complicated really quick if they do not fully clarify. And then within a week, if we see that this flip-flops again, and they do, you'll know what exactly happened. So yeah. And then we have the Kremlin accuses Europe of militarism. Again, hints at the nuclear option. So they keep talking about nuclear. Before I go over to you, Dex, I do want to point out Stephen McMahon. Who are we dealing with now anyways? The 5'10 Orange Man or the 6'3 Orange Man? I don't know. But Jenny Anderson says, I second this question. And Shirley Melward, thank you for supporting my favorite show. Hey, thank you. And I appreciate that. Dex, they're talking about nukes. Nukes. It's like Marsha.
Is his spine shrinking with old age? I guess it happens. I know I lost an inch.
Oh, yeah. What? Wait, wasn't he 6 foot? Wait, wasn't the... Oh, yeah, I totally
what he's
get
referencing.
You. Is Putin...
He's referencing that...
Putin
no,
versus
I think
Trump.
Stephen McMahon is referencing... maybe he is referencing the difference. I thought he was saying he shrunk.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't know. But I know Trump is 6'3". Isn't that crazy? He's much bigger than most people think. And then 5'10", but why call Putin Orange Man, right? That I could see being Putin. But yeah.
Okay.
And then...
Well, Putin's 5'7", so maybe he's referring to Trump being shorter.
I don't know.
Okay. Well, look, the Kremlin is obviously, they're throwing words around left and right. Anytime they hear the U.S. sending weapons in, escalating, of course, none of this is leading towards peace, but it's not like the Kremlin or any of the mouth points or Putin himself have been wanting this, because they don't want to negotiate. They haven't been willing to negotiate. I think it's probably because they've been in a position that they think that they've got control and they've got the upper hand and they've got the leverage. So the one thing that Trump talks about when it comes time for negotiations, who has the leverage, pretty much controls the cards. And they've had the leverage against Ukraine. They've controlled the lands that they've taken, and they continue to push hard and harder at either maintaining them or expanding them. But look, the Kremlin is now accusing the European countries of engaging in aggressive militarism and hinting again at the use of nuclear weapons. And again, I've said this over and over again. I don't think, the use of nukes is a tactical use. It's a use of a symbolism, or it will be used against European forces as a whole to take out a large scale number of equipment or troops that may be posing a threat to them. I don't see it like they're going to do that and all of a sudden win some major advantage in Ukraine. It just doesn't work that way. But the European nations are spending vast sums on arms and fuel the war in Ukraine. And it's funny that he says that, because we'll talk a little bit later about comparing how much weaponry is made by the European nations versus how much weaponry is made by Russia versus how much money is made by the European nations versus how much money is made by Russia. And I think he's sort of in the wrong ball camp here. But he said, of course, it's very hard to predict anything amid such emotional state bordering on irrationality, which reigns on the European continent. So throwing the names at him. He did also pointed out Russia's recent revised nuclear doctrine, which again states even inciting a non-nuclear states to take hostile action against Russia by nuclear powers constitutes an act of aggression. So again, referring to the fact that they can use according to their nuclear doctrine, they're allowed to use their nukes against somebody doing this.
So, as far as the amount of money, it is crazy to look that, all of Russia GDP is less than that of New York. I mean, that is incredible to really think about how little money that they have and how much of a percent they spend in their military is pretty insane. And we'll talk about that here in a second. And then before we move on, make sure to go check out Jase if you haven't already. If you want to get antibiotics on hand where you don't have to worry about if something happens, you can't get to a hospital, you can't get to an ER, you can't get to an urgent care, then you definitely want to go check out Jase. This is a very easy service to use on your cell phone, your tablet, or your computer. A few quick minutes with a board-certified doctor, and you can get a kit of all of the most commonly prescribed antibiotics, basically kits of each one. And then, of course, you can even add on things like albuterol and other things that you might need in an emergency situation. If you've ever been at a barbecue or some event where somebody has an asthma attack and nobody has one, it's pretty nightmarish. I went through it when I was 14. It was extremely scary not having anyone with one when I had my asthma attack. So again, if you want to go check that out, go check it out at marfooglenews.com/Jase, Jase, and code MARF will save money and you will help our channel out at the same time. And then National Guard hacked by Chinese Salt Typhoon campaign for nearly a year, DHS memo says. Before we get to this, I just want to say, Stephen McMahon says, just as there were at least 3 old Joes, people have pointed out that the flip-flopper Orange Man is only 5'10", real Orange Man is 6'3". Thank you for clarifying. And then Captain America made a really good point, says, when a nation gets to the point where they believe that they can't be touched is when mistakes are made and destruction is inevitable. What's crazy is people still have the viewpoint that we're so untouchable, that we're so, just absolutely indestructible. And I am all for having faith in our own country and having pride. But if you look at what happened over the last 8 or even 16 years before this, it was like our military was going through this just horrible kind of downside. And then the 4 years that it was getting downsized. And then during the 8 years that a certain somebody else was there, that it was being downsized. And then the cultural changes that happened and things that happened in our country that, they most definitely they aren't changes that would make us tougher, right? And then you have, of course, this idea that we're just so safe. I mean, this is something that it really seems like we're the modern day Rome. We'd think nobody can touch us, and you never underestimate your enemy. That's rule number 1. And that's all we have been doing. I know civilians have. Most people say, oh, if it's Chinese, it's going to fall apart halfway here. Well, that's just not simply the case anymore. At this point, anything that they have is pretty much copies of ours that they've stolen or hacked, and they're doing it exactly by our blueprints. So I don't see how our own technology is going to fall apart halfway here, especially when they have literally taken every piece of blueprints of some of our things. How are those things going to fall apart? Does that mean ours would fall apart halfway there? I don't think so. But yeah, and then they keep bringing up Salt Typhoon and other things like this. Now, an elite Chinese cyber spy group hacked at least one state National Guard network for nearly a year, the DoD has found. The hackers already responsible for one of the most expansive cyber espionage campaigns against the U.S. to date are alleged to have burrowed even further than previously known and may have obtained sensitive military or law enforcement information. Authorities are still working to discover the extent of the data accessed. The Department of Homeland Security memo from June describing Pentagon's findings said that the group, publicly known by Salt Typhoon, extensively compromised a U.S. State Army's National Guard network from March 2024 to December of 2024. Now, it says the report was provided through national security, transparent, nonprofit property of the people. And it says, while we cannot provide specific details on the attack or response to it, we can say that this attack was not prevented, has not prevented the National Guard from accomplishing assigned state or federal missions, and that the NGB continues to investigate the intrusion. So one thing it does not say is where exactly it was, right? It says one state's National Guard, but it doesn't say which one. Is this partially why we have destroyers backing up our frickin', our southern border? We have 4 destroyers backing up our southern border missions. Like, what the hell's going on? We're repelling invasions, and they got into at least one state's National Guard network. Can you guys give us some ideas of, just free think here? Why do you think they would get into this specifically? What do you think they're going after? And if you're former military, well, what do you think they would be going after going into the National Guard network? Dex, do you have any ideas? I mean, I would think that that would be extremely important for certain types of plans, because the National Guard.
Well, yeah, I mean, National Guard's here to defend the homeland. So if you've got access into that network, you can gain insight that may help you if you were trying to do something on the homeland.
Do you see the point that I've made for forever? This is going after National Guard, the group that would respond to our homeland events. And they're specifically getting into it. They've gotten into our infrastructure. They've gotten into our power. They have gotten people in here. Tens and tens of thousands came in just 4 years. And that number just skyrocketed. And that's the number that they know about. We don't know about the people we don't know about, right? And they've purchased land right next to our military bases. Like, why aren't people paying attention to this? This is something where it's not going to be paratroopers dropping in on our coastlines. It's going to be taps on the shoulder and saying, hey, I'm already here. So this is why people prep for the unthinkable. It is kind of crazy to think about just how, no matter where you are in this country, there is a ton of property that has just been swooped up out of nowhere by folks from that country. I mean, they've got just tons and tons of money. If you own a house, then you know this. You're being called up almost every week trying to get somebody to sell the house to a Chinese company. So it's very, very unnerving to know all of this together really paints a very specific picture. It's not somewhere far off in a far land away. This is here. So what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. All right, and and Tom Homan only has 3 years at most to get rid of the really bad entrants. Yeah, there's a lot of folks that came in during that period of time. How many of them have they been able to get out? And then, Dex, as we were talking about, the levels that Russia is at now compared to where NATO is at.
Yeah, certainly. So this is a great question. It's come up from General Mark Rutte, that's NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, has repeatedly said that Moscow's annual ammunition production capacity is 4 times greater than that of the Western Alliance, meaning all of them combined. So in terms of ammunition, Russia produces in 3 months what the whole NATO produces in a year. Rutte, who became the chief, he says, let me repeat that again. NATO's economy is 25 times bigger than Russia's. It's $50 trillion, and Russia's economy is $2 trillion. That $2 trillion economy is producing 4 times as much ammunition as a whole of NATO is producing at the moment, he said. Obviously, these were words that he was pushing around as they were trying to get the rest of NATO to spend more money, which they are now. I still don't think they're going to come close to that level. Maybe they will, but that just should be a sign to think about. Like, obviously Russia's in wartime, but at the same time, it's not like Ukraine is over there building up a whole bunch of munitions. They're bringing it in from all of us. So if we're not producing it in record numbers like that, then obviously Russia is stockpiling and preparing, and obviously building a lot greater amount of munitions than, say, the Western alliances.
Yeah, yeah. Think about that. They're both in the war together. Ukraine is not manufacturing like this. They're getting it from the whole of NATO. And if the whole of NATO, if everybody, it is 25 times smaller than what Russia's, that they're essentially, they're producing 4 times as much, then that math says that 2 times as much is going towards some sort of stockpile, towards something bigger, right? I mean, they could make twice as much and still fight this war just fine. They're making 4 times as much as all of NATO. And that is really, really, kind of a shocking number. So what does that say? It says that they're preparing for something far, far bigger. It's why I think that they used all of their crappy gear in Ukraine. For the first year and a half, they didn't even fly a jet over. They essentially threw all of their garbage at it. They got people out of prisons and threw them in there. They got 107-year-old weapons and gave it to prisoners and draftees and just threw them right in there. Really crazy. And then, so here's something I thought was really interesting. Have you guys heard about this? Dex, have you heard about this? I forgot to talk to you about this the other day. There is a video of a woman who apparently, do you remember when Russia said, hey, Americans can come here if you have Christian values and you don't want to be part of this, woke nation and stuff, that you could just go travel to Russia? Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah. The push for everybody that was upset with where things were going here in America.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, come here as a family. Well, this woman has been live streaming and talking about her husband, who was almost immediately drafted into the Russian military. Can you imagine? Man, that's pretty genius, right? It's say, hey, you hate it there so bad, come here, we'll help you, we'll do this, we'll do that. Now, I think from what I heard that they actually did help the family get in there, but then right away they took the husband and they said, you're going to war. And her videos are talking about how they wanted to get him into some sort of skilled thing because he's a skilled laborer, he's a skilled welder. And what ends up happening is they were arguing and trying to appeal the process, but everything failed, and now he's going to the front lines. So it's just kind of crazy because I know that I know a few people that even thought about that and said, well, like, how does it work? Will they pay for the ticket? Like, how could we get to Russia? People in the Fugel fam wanted to go there, and they wanted to go there as a family and bring their kids. But just imagine that. You bring your family, you bring your kids, and then they throw you on the front line against Ukraine and U.S. weapons. I wouldn't want to be on the front lines of that war on either side. But yeah, if that is true.
And can you speak the language? I mean, imagine that.
No. And that's the big part. She said that they are training them in Russian, and her husband doesn't understand any of it. So essentially, that's because they're training them in Russian. There is no translator. He is not actually getting training. Like, if he's going in the front lines with really good training and he's going in there, that would be great. But he's going in there not understanding anything. And they're pretty much handing him a rifle or a freaking rocket launcher and going, hey, run in there and do some damage. Which, I mean, it's kind of crazy. And then that woman, if she loses her husband, her and her kids are going to be stuck there. And I think, I don't know what happens with the U.S. If you went over during that, does the U.S. say, well, now you're a citizen over there? Will they take you back? Is there anything that she can do? It sounds like there's nothing she can do with our embassy either, because I think they forfeited their right to be a citizen here, to be a citizen there. I don't know. But if you are a citizen there, think about, why wouldn't you be drafted, right? So yeah, that's something that's pretty horrible. If it is 100% true. And then China may be secretly stockpiling gold. Why that spells trouble for the US dollar. Now, the huge gold purchases said that at least one country was involved in this huge gold buy-off back in March. I mean, we had, record-breaking days of gold buying, and gold is just extreme. I mean, $33,000+ $100. I don't even know what it's at now. It's probably around there. But, with this, it says weaponization of the U.S. dollar helped spur gold buying among global central banks. China's central bank has been buying physical gold to add to its reserves for at least the past 3 years. And there's growing speculation that the country may be purchasing even more of the metal in secret as part of a strategy to reduce its reliance on the U.S. dollar. The ramp up in gold purchases by the People's Bank of China began back in 2022 when Russia invaded Ukraine. So it almost sounds like they went hand in hand with Russia, like it was planned together. You see my meaning? And then the West at the time froze Russia's foreign exchange reserves, the US dollar and euro. That was the moment that the dollar was weaponized in a way never seen before, which scared foreign national or central banks and spurred them to buy record amounts of gold. It says when the West froze Russia's foreign exchange reserves in the wake of the invasion of 2022, the moment the dollar was weaponized in a way it was never seen. In 2022, the People's Bank of China reported its first increase in gold reserves since September of 2019, according to the World Gold Council. But that does not mean that the central bank made no purchases of the precious metal for its reserve between those time periods. That's because getting accurate data from China is widely known to be a challenge, as its government is known for secrecy. Given how much gold it's buying, it's quite sensible for China to limit public disclosure where possible. And it says, after all, it's not in the interest of any bona fide buyer to take actions that make its purchases more expensive than they need to be. Saying if it's not going to try to tell everybody, oh, we're going in all in on this to make it more expensive for them to buy it the next time. So this is something that, where you saw this huge, just crazy spike in gold buying. It's by countries. They're prepping for something. China has been hoarding everything, and that's something that hasn't been talked about in at least a year. They're hoarding everything, and now the percentages are way, way higher than they were. They had 55% of the world's corn, 60% of the world's rice, of this, of that, of natural gases, of this. And they have monopolies on certain things. A couple of them being antibiotics and, of course, the metals, the rare earth metals and the materials for, pretty much the entire future, right? So this should be a really, really big sign to any skeptic out there that something is going down big time. Dex, go ahead.
Well, and it's still happening this year. There has been massive gold buys, and they all they can do is speculate, but a lot of them have said they believe, and they can sort of indirectly trace it to China, but it's being done in a secretive way. And the reason it's secretive back then was they didn't want the price to raise. And it's the same reason it's secretive today. They don't want the price to go up, any more astronomically than it is. Because why? They probably have a lot more to buy, and they have a lot more they're going to be investing. So that's, some have even speculated that they're expecting to see gold hit $4,000, which I think was at 33 to 3,500 in the last few days. So, but yeah, that would be huge. And but at the same time, I think they're not done, and they're still doing it, and they're still doing it undercover as much as possible.
A pile of parking tickets says they work with Danish companies that run shell companies that mine precious metals and gemstones. It's been happening for a long time. They sell private all the time. Oh, yeah, no doubt about that. The numbers are so shocking that the metal folks, the people that, deal in this every single day, honestly thought it was a glitch. I mean, they said, this is wrong. You're right. There's got to be a glitch here. But there was no glitch. It's something that really, really shows you kind of that something massive is going on right under our noses. China makes the most handheld radios, and I think they make a lot of the surveillance cameras, or at least a lot of the cheaper ones, right? I think
yeah, they're all over America.
Yeah,
and they all phone home to China too.
And they have proprietary software almost on every one of them. Isn't that crazy? Your cheaper cameras, everybody that's going to Walmart to get their cameras, unless it's a couple of the brands, if you're getting the ones that are like XZT17 4-camera kit, that is most definitely a Chinese company. And when you have to sign up with an app you've never heard before, that is a proprietary company that is literally connected most likely to China. So you're buying a surveillance tool that could literally be accessed by another country. If it hooks up to the internet, if it's not hardwired and it's just straight up cord to a recorder, even then it could be hacked into. Then you're most likely spying for China.
And the American ones are expensive. But look, it takes you got to be sort of I don't call it a network engineer, but you got to be kind of a network guru to set up your network to prevent them from doing that. You got to be able to create a VLAN and cordon off all those cameras and make sure that they can't phone home, and do it in a way that you don't lose the functionality. Like, you want to be able to look at your cameras on your phone, or you want to be able to look at your cameras when you're not at home. It's the whole point of it, right? But they all phone home to China. So you gotta be pretty tech savvy to set up your network to prevent that.
And that's the thing. There were so many areas where we allowed them to get into places. Like, people think, oh, we're the toughest military. Well, what about this? What if our power grid goes down? Say a lot of the stuff that we did for renewable energy during a certain president who may or may not have been in China's pocket, who may or may not have turned his other cheek and had almost an entire administration do the same. Well, just say, what if all of a sudden we lose our power? We lose our cranes for all imports because 70% of them are run by proprietary software. So all of a sudden we can't get in things from other countries. All of a sudden we have, state and local networks all go down. I mean, all of these things have happened. And it's like all of these inserts over the last 5 or 6 years, it's like, let's go through this company and integrate renewable energy that's straight up manufactured in China into our grid. That was really stupid. They're like, oh, don't worry, everything was mostly put together here. Then they find out and tell us just recently that, oh yeah, the firewall, they have a firewall and all of this stuff to stop China from accessing it. So that's not an option. Well, they physically open up this building-sized transformer and they find radio equipment physically put into the middle of it where nobody was going to look, so it could supersede any kind of firewall. There are things being planned here. It's very, very obvious. And that's why I say, it doesn't have to be, you can't really look at like China's got this many people and this has got this many people. We've got the most stealth stuff. We've got this. If they screw us up enough, if they screw up the U.S. enough and just complete chaos in the entire United States, and they look where we haven't, then they could pull us down a notch or take us off the pedestal to at least where we're even. That's the very least. And they could be a threat to us. Dex, go ahead.
I mean, just think of how difficult it was to pull off the Israel Hezbollah pager incident, where they had to intercept, open them up, plant something in it, and get it through. And they were able to do that. Imagine what a country with the resources and the size of China that manufactures the products, builds the software, does everything to them, and we do nothing but over here scream, give me more, give me more, give me more. And we just take it and gobble it up. How easy is it for them to pull off the same thing? I'm not talking about, pagers that go boom. I'm talking about, any type of thing, whether it's network hacking, whether it's turning every camera on in America so it's surveilled for their benefit, or anything else. There could be any number of things that could be done that we haven't even thought of yet. But they have all the power to do it, and we're doing nothing but begging for that consumerization of those products.
Any lithium, if you get a solar generator from Amazon and it's straight up a Chinese company, imagine one of those things blowing up. I can only imagine if you had like 1,000 watt hours or something battery and have that remote just boom, that thing wouldn't that take out a house? I mean, if a cell phone could take out almost a person.
It's not as the explosion as much as the fire you can't put out that'll burn your house down. Yeah.
Yeah, and the chemicals that don't go away. Laura Hart, nice to see you. Who was that? Who said something about make the Epstein list great again? Yeah, or make it exist again, right? Just bring it back. Bring it back better or something. And then, speaking of generators, if you want one that isn't going to have some sort of radio in it and is going to not only be tough, Inergy has always been our recommendation. The thing is, Inergy has gotten so busy, so popular, and it has military contracts. It's going to be providing the Army with a ton of these. These are the exact model that actually won the contract. Again, this is the tactical. The thing is of course, they have paused all of their other generator models. This one, they have a batch in, so it's the batch that they have in until that is gone, and then once it's gone, it is gone. So if you want to get your hands on a tactical, this is the Flex Tactical. This is actually something that can be expanded up to over 40 plus batteries. You can end up bringing it portable with one battery, or you can do it 40 and have the thing go forever. Again, this thing is built with a steel reinforced frame. It is built for weather. It's IPX2 and IP5 dust resistance. Of course, it is integrated heaters. So if you're in extreme cold temperatures, if you've ever had any kind of drone or any kind of battery technology in cold weather, you know that they do not work as well or as long. This thing has a heater that can actually sense that. So this has all of the things that most would want for a portable generator. And not only that, again, you know it's not going to be back-ended. Everything was front-loaded in the United States. Everything that had to be done to make sure that this thing could not be accessed by any foreign country, that has been done beforehand, just to make it simple. Plus, the latch system is an incredible update from the regular. It has those reinforced latches that can just click on and boom, you're ready to go. Or you unclick and you can take off whatever amount of batteries you need for whatever you need to do. Not to mention there's different mods that you can put in the middle. You basically sandwich them in. There's ones that can quick charge. There's ones that can essentially change the whole function of the generator. It is an absolutely awesome unit. You can make one that instead of 4 or 8 solar panels, you can do one that makes it allowed to pull in 12 panels. So again, really cool. marfooglenews.com/Inergy, Inergy, and you can get this again protected by an EMP Shield. The EMP Shield works directly with them. And again, the batches will run out. If you're watching the replay, I would make sure that they still have them. All others have been paused indefinitely. Again, and that is because their main focus is the military right now and the U.S. Army. All right, Dex, go ahead.
Yeah, and if you do want the EMP Shield for that, go buy it from EMP Shield, not from Inergy, because they're out at Inergy.
Yeah, so
and I think you'll save a few bucks using our code over on EMP Shield, but they have the Inergy models over on EMP Shield site.
Yep. So if they're out, go over to EMP Shield. And then Dex, preemptive strikes. The messaging just keeps repeating. Preemptive strikes on NATO. Preemptive strikes on NATO.
Yeah, this, and what does that look like, right? I could, a preemptive strike could be, let's strike in Ukraine as weapons are crossing the border, or it could be let's strike in Poland where the weapons are being gathered before they cross the border. Or it could be let's just strike a whole bunch of places in NATO, right? That would be the extreme. Yeah, but this is big words. Again, it's Russia does talk big words, but at some point we're at this stage in the conflict that things have to change. It's not going to stay the same forever. There's they're kind of at, I don't want to call it a stalemate, but you've got this 50-day time period in which there's going to be massive sanctions, which is going to crush the economy, what is left of the economy of Russia from all their oil gains that they get. You've got the fact that they're spending an enormous amount of money on military, obviously to protect themselves against NATO, but even just to upkeep the Ukraine conflict. I don't think they're going to walk away from it, but certainly it can't. Nothing has changed significantly. So I think you're going to have to see something escalate. And as much as you're hearing Europe say, hey, we're going to war with Russia, we're going to war with Russia, we're going to war with Russia over and over and over again, that certainly seems like that change has to happen soon. When I say that change, something's going to happen. Whether that something is a Fantastic Freddy that is created to look like Russia, or if it's Russia doing a preemptive strike against all these Patriot missiles that are coming in, whether it's or a preemptive strike against the other things that Europe is bringing in, or something else. We'll have to see, but it's certainly, we're at that point where things are just getting to, it's not like they're coming to the table anymore. They're getting to the point of massive change in tactics.
Well, and then there's the Black Sea strategy. You have countries like Romania. I showed you the other day, all of these aren't even contracts. These are fulfilled things where they're setting up Mistral air defense systems. They're setting up Iron Dome in Romania. Romania is getting the Iron Dome system. If you look at the map, they keep talking about the Turkey Black Sea strategy. It hasn't been announced yet. We don't know exactly what it is. But the countries that have been referencing it, Romania, you've got, of course, Finland. And you have, of course, Armenia. And all of these countries that, now have sided against Russia, they're all joining in and mentioning this Black Sea strategy. So these are behind Ukraine. If you look at the map here, all of these countries are setting up as if Russia's going to steamroll right through into Romania. What are they expecting? What information do they have that we don't? Or do they have information because they're the ones creating it, right? What if the U.S. and all these guys, they're talking behind closed doors and they're saying, hey, it's going to look like there's tactical nukes going off in Ukraine. We're going to step this up. We're going to fully really go in. And then it's going to be a war with Russia and North Korea and Cuba, Nicaragua, and all of these others are going to jump in. And this is going to be a full-fledged war between NATO and Russia. This is what a world war would look like. This is you replace the names and replace the countries involved. Look at how World War II buzzed up to get going. And remember, they didn't call it World War II then. Right? It was the very same thing. Everybody was taking sides, and once everybody got to the point where everybody knew what side they were on, they started to kick it up a notch. And certain events triggered it at certain times when it was just the perfect time for something bad to happen. That doesn't mean that I want this war to happen, but if you look at the signs that are happening, this isn't crazy. This isn't connecting crazy dots. This is out in the open. They're preparing us for it. They're preparing Europe for it. They're preparing us mentally for a great war. And that's exactly what I believe is going to happen. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. By the way, thank you so much, Captain America, Stephen McMahon, Sweatin' Ministries. Billy Jack's Wild America says, woo, woo, made it to 24 months. Love the show and the fam. Hey, thank you. And again, that's 2 years. That's awesome. Thank you for being a member for 2 years. You just got that gold 24 badge. And then Sweat and Ministries, or a power plant hacked explosion. Yeah, that very well, that could happen to us. Think about anything, a nuclear plant being hacked and blow up. That would be a bad, bad day. Gosh, we have, I forget what our nuclear plant, what is our nuclear, all you Washingtonians, because I know we've got tons here. What is ours called here in Washington? It's right at the tip of my tongue. I swear like ours has been used as like the stereotypical picture of a nuclear plant.
Hanford?
Hanford. Yes, thank you. Hanford. Hanford is like, I want to say that our Hanford is what like the Simpsons even use, because the Simpsons, Matt Groening went to the college here. He was up in Bellingham for college and stuff. So a lot of the things in that cartoon are kind of roughly based on things from here, like the colleges and things like that. Hanford. Thank you, Inquiring Minds. Thank you as well. Arizona Raven, Seeking Truth. Again, thank you, J-Pass and Belinda. Thank you, everybody that made it to the show today. Again, I actually injured myself pretty bad yesterday, so thank you guys for your patience. It was not fun yesterday, so thank you guys so much for showing up and being here. Again, we will see you tomorrow on Friday. Friday is usually a pretty crazy day for news, so make sure to show up. Dex, thank you so much for your service today. I appreciate you.
Much love. Great job, brother.
All right, you guys, it is time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro. Be safe, be prepared, and Marf out.